season can be tough on coaches. Um, is there any world in which another NBA team comes to you with a more winning program and says, "Hey, we want you to be our head coach"? Do you listen to that, or are you a Utah Jazz man for forever?
I'm all in, man. I'm not going anywhere. This is one that's a crazy scenario that you just brought up. Like I don't see a world where that would happen, but it doesn't matter. Like I'm committed here. I'm under contract here. I told Ryan and Danny and Justin that I want to be here for as long as I can. Um, the goal for me is to put a banner at Delta Center, and I try to operate every day, not just with my job or coaching our team, but how I try to be present in the community. Um, like I'm putting my roots here in Utah. Um, that's not even a question for me. In some ways, my conviction has never been stronger in terms of wanting to execute our long-term vision and ultimately win a championship here.
How do you feel that holding players accountable has gone this season? And I mean that from like kind of how you do it on a day-to-day basis, like what that looks like, and then also how you feel like it has it been positive or negative, or have there been struggles along the way?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's gone great. I think there's an awareness that's needed when you're a coach in terms of when. A mentor of mine told me a long time ago that coaching is not about being right, it's about being right at the right time. And you have to evaluate each person, what situation they're in terms of when it's time to lay the hammer down and when it's time to put your arm around them and encourage them. And to me, that's the fun part of coaching, is that it's not 2 + 2 is 4. These are human beings. It's a moving target every day. And I think for the most part, it went great this year. I think our players know and feel that ultimately I'm in their corner. It is my responsibility to hold them accountable, though. And you have to hold the line. If you demand something and it's not met, you have to continue to hold that line. And I'm very proud of our players in terms of how they conducted themselves this season. Over the course of 82 games with 18 guys, of course, there are moments where there's a back and forth or there's a disagreement, but there was never a moment this season where I felt like, oh, we've lost this person or they're going their own way.
Doc Rivers said this season that he doesn't think that coaches or losses should go on coaches' records during these like rebuilding seasons that you guys had. Kind of in the same sense, how do you go about evaluating a year like this when wins and losses doesn't really make sense to do such a thing?
I mean, I'm sure Doc was fine with the wins and the championship in Boston. I don't think it's fair for us to say, oh, this shouldn't be on me. This is the job. Like, this is the responsibility. This is what you sign up for. The good, the bad, and the in-between. I said to you guys last night, complaining is not a strategy. And sure, the losses go on my record, but the opinions that matter to me are the people that are in our building, our organization. They know what we do every day. And so I think that's just the shadow side of coaching, is that, yeah, when you lose, it follows you. But when you win, that follows you also. So I think while I understand Doc's sentiment, I just think this is part of the job.
Coach, building culture is something that's so huge, whether it's just with your young players, some of the older ones, your coaching staff, everyone around you. How much of a focus is that for you this off season, and how do you instill that in guys even when you're not around them all the time?
Yeah, it's the most important thing for our young players to grow and develop. The environment is the most important thing to me. Like, we use the word culture. I think the culture is ultimately made up of the people that are in the building. I don't think culture is a slideshow. I don't think culture is bullet points on a wall. I think culture is the people that are in the building. And ultimately, the measure of your culture is how everybody acts when you're not in the room. The environment around our young players is the most important thing to me. We have to cultivate a group of people, that's players, staff, that give everybody their best chance to grow into the best versions of themselves. I think through 3 seasons, we've been pretty particular about who we want here, and we're going to continue to try to refine that process. That's an everyday thing, and I just want to make sure that while we're going through this developmental phase, that we're giving all of our young players the best opportunity to grow based on what we surround them with.
Does the idea of having 4 more rookies come in spike your blood pressure?
No. That doesn't bother me at all. I think I have plenty of experience now coaching really young players. There's good parts and there's tough parts, just like there's good parts and tough parts to coaching veterans. So, we will coach whoever is on the roster and try to help them all maximize their abilities and grow, and also try to help the 18 people that are in our locker room function as a group at their highest level. But, if that's the case, I'm sure there'll be plenty of snarky comments made on Twitter, but that's just the way it goes.
I'm going to ask you for the 6 rookies and sophomores. You're going through end of season meetings with them. What are the 1 or 2 priorities you want them to work on this summer?
Yeah. So Cody, it's about his body and his physical strength. We also have to do some things to refine his shooting. Isaiah, conditioning has to become a superpower, and then we have to continue to refine his shooting, especially the kind of sit behind 3 off the bounce when people try to go way under in pick and roll. Flip has got to become more solid on the defensive end. He has to be earlier on the defensive end. I think that Flip is used to making plays over the top over the course of his life, and I think at this level we just need him to be a little bit earlier defensively. And then as it relates to his shooting, he has seen some success, and now we have to tighten those things and make it his habit, because as expected, there was some success, then some of the things started to drift a little bit, which with any new skill is not a shock to me. Like, there was no alarm bell that went off. But now with the off season, he can really try to make those things a habit. Keontae has got to improve his defense. His defense can be improved in a variety of ways. Some of it is the mental aspect, but there also is an element of his conditioning and his physical strength. On the offensive side, his shooting discipline needs to improve. You asked the question about efficiency, and I think that those things need to be addressed, but more than that, I think just the technical discipline when he does shoot, not falling out of his shot, some of those things can be worked on. Taylor, we've got to get healthy. That's the only focus. And Bryce has to make his body his number 1 priority. I think Bryce has shown everybody that he has a definable, tangible NBA skill. When he shoots, it goes in. But his body is going to help him navigate all the other areas. Everything from changing ends of the floor to becoming more solid defensively. If he can do those things, it allows his skill to really shine.
Is there a type of player that you think this team needs, or is it kind of too early to be thinking of like where players would fit in?
Yeah, right now, I'm more concerned with the type of people. I think our roster at this point, you could make arguments for a variety of different positions, but I think we also have a bunch of talent in the building. Because everybody's so young, there aren't that many guys that stand out head and shoulders above the pack where you would say, like, oh, that position's not a need. I think we obviously, whenever we're acquiring players, the number one thing is we want good players. But the type of people, to me, is what's most important. We need tough, competitive people. And I think our process of evaluating, Danny, Justin, their entire group, the information that I receive through those processes, I think is very good in trying to identify the types of people that we're bringing in, because especially when you're acquiring very young players, the one and dones used to be outliers 5 or 6 years ago. Now everybody in the draft's 19, and so you have a little bit less basketball data on them, and you're ultimately trying to bet on human behavior. And I think that our group's done an amazing job of recognizing that and trying to identify the types of human beings that we want to bet on. That's what's most important to me, because I think, back to Lauren's question earlier, like, that's what adds up to the culture. That's what ultimately will impact the environment the most and give everybody their best chance. I think there's a lot of different player types in terms of basketball that can be really effective. And so for me, it's not about pinpointing, oh, we need X. It's about the human piece.
Along those lines, how involved are you in the draft evaluation process, and how much do you want to be, I guess?
I'm very involved, and I'm glad that I'm very involved. Obviously, there's so much work that's been done all year. This is a 1,000-mile road trip, and I'm coming in at mile 950, so I'm not going to try to drive. But I'm trying to really get an understanding of who has been identified as players that we, the Jazz, like, and why. So if there's 300 college players that have been watched all year by our staff, I don't have the opportunity to watch all 300. They try to narrow it down for me some. And so for me, I'm in a learning mode right now as we enter draft season. I take the lead from Justin and Danny in the front office, because that's the part that they have been digging in on all year while I've been coaching our team. So I'm involved, but in no way do I come in acting like I'm the expert. I need to really take the next month and a half and learn about who's in the draft and how it all fits together.